And welcome back to another podcast with Mr. Hagan. And on this podcast, we continue to talk about the classical and Keynesian economists and the difference between the two. And on this podcast, we're going to look specifically at the Keynesians. So the Keynesian view of the world is going to be exactly the opposite of, well, that's not entirely true, but in a lot of ways opposite of the classical position. So let's get right to it. So the classical economists, we said they believed in what they call Say's law. You can see that on one of the previous videos. Supply creates its own demand. The Keynesians are going to reject that. They're going to say supply doesn't always create its own demand. So that process is going to break down. That idea that by producing something, you provide workers with the income to then go buy it, that process is sometimes going to break down. It's not always going to be true. And as a result of that, they're generally going to believe that you can get general over and under production of goods and services, or what we call GDP gaps. They're going to believe that GDP gaps can actually happen. And we saw this on previous videos on a Keynesian cross. So let me just draw the Keynesian cross over here real fast. We have the 45-degree line. That's where gross domestic product is equal to aggregate expenditures. That's where change in inventories is equal to 0. And then we have the actual aggregate expenditure curve, and that intersection point is the equilibrium or actual gross domestic product. That's where the society is actually producing. But the problem would be, what if our potential GDP were out here at YP? So that would mean that we would be producing below our potential. Our actual GDP would be below our potential, and that's what we would call a GDP gap. Now, that'd be the GDP gap. So according to the classical economists, this might be able to happen in the short run, but in the long run, the economy is going to be self-regulating. It's going to fix itself. And the Keynesian position is that might not always be true, that this gap might sustain itself. We might continue to be in this GDP gap for a very long time. The actual GDP may continue to be below the potential for a very long period of time. So we're trapped at some equilibrium below our potential, and I'll kind of give you some reasoning behind that here in a few moments. Sorry, I'll do that in the next video. Sorry, I'll do that in a future video. Prices and wages are inflexible. So in other words, they are what we call sticky, and there should be a little Y there. Prices and wages are sticky. In the short run, and this creates market imperfections. And those market imperfections, this sticky wages and sticky prices, is what's going to cause the GDP sometimes to be trapped down below potential. And I really can't lay out that argument. Right now I'm just kind of saying it. I can't lay that argument out until future videos. We have to build some future models in order to do that. So let's just kind of say it this way. The simplest way of saying it is this. The Keynesians believe that the economy is not always self-regulating. Okay? The classical economists believe that the economy is self-regulating. It will fix itself. The Keynesians say that it's not always self-regulating. It won't always fix itself. So you can kind of think about it like as medicine a little bit, this debate. So sometimes if the patient gets sick, the best thing that the doctor can do is just to do nothing. Let the patient go. Its body will fight off the illness, and the body will kind of fix itself. It will self-regulate. But sometimes somebody gets sick, and the body will not fix itself without getting some sort of medicine or something from external to itself. And that's kind of like what this debate is like between the classical and the Keynesians. So the classical economists say you really don't need a whole lot of government saving the economy because it's self-regulating and it will fix itself. But the Keynesians are going to say, no, it's not always self-regulating. Sometimes the economy gets sick, so to speak, and it will not solve itself, and so you need some sort of medicine, so to speak, from the outside. You need government to intervene in some way to solve the problem. So right there, this is, I mean, these are all the difference, but if you're going to say it in one sentence, this is it. The classical economists believe that the economy is self-regulating. The Keynesians think that sometimes it is not self-regulating, and therefore needs government to step in sometimes to kind of save the economy from itself. We'll talk a little bit more about the details of how this works on a future podcast. This has been Mr. Hagan. Thanks for joining me, and we'll see you on the next podcast.